Well, welcome everybody. So this has been a lot of fun. Every other week I've been doing a different topic for the Kennebunk Free Library. So this has been a nice way for me to give some community service and get my name out there. I am an applied functional medicine coach in Kennebunk, Maine, though I can work with people all over the country because what I do does not require me to be face-to-face with somebody. I am also a licensed massage therapist. So functional medicine, in case you are not aware, is enjoying a lot of popularity. It's been gaining a lot of strength in the last few years. So it really strives to get at the root cause of all people's unease or dis-ease. So instead of perhaps just getting a pill for your ill, as they say, or a drug to mask your symptoms, functional medicine really focuses to unwind and go to the root cause of what might be causing somebody to be unwell, be in pain, have the symptoms that they're having or not. They could be tired, they could have achy joints, whatever it is. So that's what I do. My email is right there. My phone number is right there. I will also put them in the chat box, or maybe Allison can do that for me when I'm talking. And if you would like to receive, I do a client handout at the end of this presentation that I can send you tomorrow with all my the notes that would be of interest. And also, it'll be your email in the chat feature. And also, if you would like, when this becomes a YouTube link in a couple of days, I can also send that along to you as well. So if you share your email in the chat feature, I will know that that's what you would like. So nutrition and your health. So that we've done sleep, we've done stress, and it's very interesting because these things all intertwine. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some really easy ways to improve your immune system and your metabolic health through all the dietary choices that you make every day. And I speak to this directly in regard to what's going on right now with COVID-19. They are pretty, they have some pretty good evidence that for people that are under 70 years old that are having a really tough time with COVID, so not the people that are cancer patients, not the people that have diabetes, let's say, or overt obvious health risks, but there's a few people, we hear about them every week that are, some are dying, some are having a really rough time. And they're 35, they're 45. And what they're finding is that the common denominator is that these people have poor cellular metabolism, which just means your metabolic health has to do with how you process energy. So like metabolic syndrome would be a cluster of those things. So somebody, let's say, who has heart disease or has insulin resistance or diabetes or high blood sugar or is overweight, those are all separate things. If you have all of those, like if someone has high blood pressure and they're overweight, especially around the middle, high cholesterol levels, etc., that's called metabolic syndrome. So they're finding that people that are really struggling with this, other than the obvious high-risk people, are just plain not healthy. And the good news, this is the good news for tonight, is that you can change your metabolic health in as few as 4 to 6 weeks. So what I wish is that when we were all told to shelter at home 3 months ago, that the health leaders of our country would have come out and told people, you can't do, even without knowing what we know now about people that are struggling, we do know that anyone who has high blood sugar and poor health through their nutrition is going to struggle with any kind of health issue. So while we've all been home and while we are all still staying home, one thing you can do in the next 4 to 8 weeks is really make some different choices in your life. And I structured this to really hit the big things, because I could talk a whole hour on just sugar, a whole hour on just fat, but I'm going to try and give you all my best tips for how you can change your health around in a short period of time and get yourself on a course to a healthier way of life. Because at some point, we're all going to get exposed to this at some point, I think, and we want everyone to be as healthy as they can be. So what I'll cover tonight is something called the optimal health model that my school taught us, which we'll go over. Talk a little bit about the typical American diet. We're going to talk about what actually does our body need to be healthy, our wonderful, amazing gut. And of course, the microbiome and the gut has gotten a lot of press in the last year, so I'm sure you've heard about that. We're going to talk about good versus bad fats. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that. And then we're going to talk about the importance of cruciferous vegetables, which is broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and the like. And then we're going to talk about the importance of antioxidants. All right, so the optimal health model is just, we were taught in school with every single person, the first thing you want to do is teach someone that all we really need to do is maximize what our individual body needs to thrive. And they say individual because everybody's different. And we touched upon that the last time. So what diet, what foods might be really great for Annie Watts's body may not be the same foods that are really great for someone else's. So it is individualized. We want to minimize what's harmful to us, and we want to prioritize an environment that supports our healing. So maximize, these are basic, but you'd be surprised. Yeah, you start with the basics with people and they get much better. You know, nice clean air, clean water, nutrients, vitamins, minerals. Some of them tonight. And then the prioritize is just an environment for healing. So sleep, rest, laughter, exercise, positive attitude, good relationships, and good breathing. So this is a screen. And I know that a lot of people that are here tonight probably don't eat this stuff, or not all of it. A lot of you I know are pretty healthy, but even some things that we think are quote unquote healthy are not so much. The Stonyfield smoothie and some other things. So some of these might look okay, but the devil is really in the details. So for instance, hot dogs that you see contain nitrates and nitrites, and those are carcinogens, which means they cause cancer. So fun fact that nitrates and nitrites become 10 times more carcinogenic when they're heated. They're also found in bacon. They're also found in processed deli meats, very carcinogenic. The American Medical Association has already stated that luncheon meats are carcinogenic. What else? Welch's grape juice. So fruit juices are not a healthy choice, guys. They are loaded with sugar. I don't know if anyone remembers, but my grandmother had juice glasses and they were really small. And if we are to drink juice, it's meant to be drunk in little glasses, not in big, huge glasses the way they show on TV now. But they're not a good source of vitamins and they are loaded with sugar. So if you consume them at all, maybe splash them into your soda water or your seltzer. Sugar is super toxic to our bodies. So I don't know if anyone's realized this, but as we become older and we age, sugar becomes even more toxic to our bodies. Have you ever woken up after eating ice cream the night before or having a glass of wine, and when you shut your hand, it's hard to shut your hand and it hurts? That's the sugar. Lay's potato chips. So those, no doubt, are processed with very dangerous oils, and that's why those aren't good. So just some things to think about. So today we're going to be discussing that maximizing, right, what our body needs, and we'll also be talking about some of the things that we want to minimize or get rid of in that, that second column. So what does our body need? Clean, whole foods. So I call whole foods, right, what is right in front of you that the earth made, right? Apples, oranges, fish, meat, vegetables that grow in the earth, versus what I like to call broken foods or processed foods, anything that's made in a factory. Whenever you can, to choose organic foods. They're non-GMO and they are much healthier for you. They're free of pesticides. Not all, I mean, as much as they try to be. They've even found some pesticides in organic foods, but they're as clean as you can be, as they can be. We need healthy fats, and we're going to talk about that tonight. It's a big myth that fats are bad. decades being told that we should be on no-fat or low-fat diets, and that really caused this country to become obese for a lot of different reasons. And we need proteins and amino acids for building blocks in our body, clean water, definitely need to be hydrated. So many problems with people is because they're dehydrated, and we need fresh, clean air, and vitamins and minerals. So vitamins come from the sun, and minerals come from the soil. I don't know if you realize, let me see, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know how to go back. So I'm just gonna think of the vitamins and the mineral and all that stuff while you're listening to me. So vitamin D, there's a huge problem with the world being low on vitamin D, especially vegetarians, but we don't get out in the sun enough. People are scared of the sun. They slather toxic sunscreen on themselves. There's some wonderful organic and innocuous sunscreens that you can get at your health food store. I really suggest that because, you know, the copper tone and the bullfrog and the other types of things that you see at the store at CVS, they're very, very toxic, and you're slathering them all over your body, which is the biggest organ that you have. We call it, you know, your skin is just like a giant mouth. So to be putting all that toxic stuff on us and staying out of the sun all the time, we have become a country that is insufficient in vitamin D. So vitamins enter into the plants from the sun, and we get minerals from our soil. So one of the reasons that our so many people have mineral deficiency in our country is due to all the depletion of the soil over the last 70 years. So this is from like an adequate use of the fields, from excessive and really intense cultivation of crop after crop. They haven't been doing any crop rotations, the use of pesticides, and so the minerals are just not there in the soil like they used to be. So they guess that approximately 50% of Americans are deficient in one or more mineral, and magnesium being the #1 of those minerals. Okay, so this is your wonderful gut. I loved this picture because it should be happy like that, right? Our guts want to be happy. It's a part of our enteric nervous system. It is where 2/3 of our immune system is located in our gut. They call it the second brain. Over 90% of our body's serotonin is produced in our gut, and over 50% of the dopamine in our body is produced in our gut. So serotonin is a neurotransmitter. You've probably heard of it before. We talked about it in the sleep talk a month ago, but it's responsible for sleep and pain regulation, as well as mood balance. Serotonin contributes to our feelings of well-being, our feelings of happiness. And so like low serotonin is directly related to a lot of depression that people are feeling. Dopamine also is a neurotransmitter. That's the neurotransmitter that sends messages between your nerve cells. So it's responsible for how we feel pleasure. So anyway, our gut is constantly sending message back to our brain all the time about the status of our world. So what we put into our gut, what we drink, what we eat, sends messages back to the brain. Either one, or it's only one of two messages. It's either alarm, alarm, danger, Will Robinson, or it's, oh, happiness, healthy, whole foods, we're good. When you take an Oreo and you put it in your stomach, or you take potato chips or a McDonald's hamburger and you put it in your stomach and it has all those damaged oils and all that processed food in it, your poor stomach doesn't recognize it. So there's no in between. It's either alarm and inflammation, or it's happiness and healing. So just remember that, the two different things. There's nothing in between. It's not like, oh, these are healthy cookies. I like these. If you make cookies with good oil and normal sugar and normal ingredients, then your body's going to be like, this is pretty good. Yeah, so just remember that at every moment when we're eating, we're either alarming or healing our body. Food pyramids. So this you'll recognize, right? 1970s food pyramid, where we had rice and potatoes and bread and oatmeal and all that on the bottom, saying that's what most of our oh well, someone's not muted, that's okay. So that's where most of our calories should come from. And then next was fruits and vegetables. They didn't differentiate between high or low glycemic vegetables or fruits or starchy or non-starchy vegetables. And then meat and meat alternatives. And at the very top were fats, oils, sugars, and salts. So we all know that this is not how we should be distributing our diet. So whoever's the person on here managing the talk, maybe you could mute that person. So then this is more of what we want to do in today's world. We know this now. So non-starchy veggie plants and foods, unlimited amounts, asparagus, broccoli, right, eggplant, all this wonderful stuff. The next one is healthy fats and proteins, avocados, salmon, eggs, grass-fed beef, all that good stuff. Then in the next is the starchy veggies and the fruits, and then we go to beans, legumes, non-gluten grains, and so forth, with a nice glass of wine being on the top. So very, very different. And you know, it wasn't too long ago, I'm sitting in my children's pediatrician, it seems like not too long ago, but it was probably 10 or 12 years ago. And they still had the old pyramid up there. And she's still pushing me to she's grilling my kids. Why doesn't your mom let you drink milk? And she would just, and I'm like, wow, dude, it's like the year 2000. We're in the 2000s. You should know by now. Things have changed. And here was a doctor. You know, doctors, I don't know if you know this, but have very little nutrition training in med school. Very little. They need to take maybe 20 hours during their whole medical school and their whole residency. And they're not to blame for it, but they're very out of touch with nutrition and food as medicine. That's really sad. So here, when we talk about maximize and minimize, there's a lot less opportunity, right, to digest and absorb what we want to maximize for our bodies in this situation, and much more opportunity to digest and absorb what we want from this wonderful display of food, right? A rainbow of vegetables, whole foods, non-processed, just eating what the earth makes. So this is the Dirty Dozen. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but not everybody can buy organic everything, and not everybody can find everything that's organic. So this is called the Dirty Dozen. It is the list that it gets tweaked every year. It changes, and you can Google it every year. But this is the 12 things that absolutely you do not want to buy non-organic. Absolutely. And usually, oh, it is there, spinach, yeah. So spinach, big, bad, bad, bad. Spinach is not good. Strawberries, very porous. So just think of the more porous something is, and there's pesticides, the more it's going to get all the way through that. Fruit, that's why you don't see an avocado on that list, or a banana, because they have a thicker skin. But apples, so at least 99% of non-organic apples have pesticide residue. Strawberries that are not organic contain 13 different pesticides each. Grapes, 15 different pesticides each. Celery, 13 different pesticides piece per sample that they did. Imported nectarines, every single sample tested positive for pesticides. Cherry tomatoes, 13 different types of pesticides were found in cherry tomatoes. Imported snap peas, 13 different types of pesticides were found. And potatoes had more pesticides by weight than any other food. So you also know that what Roundup is. And so a lot of these products and grains are produced with Roundup ready seed. So there's literally glyphosate, which is a carcinogen, put into the seed of the food that they grow, that you consume and eat, and goes into your body. It's horrible. Can you tell I'm upset? Okay, the Clean 15. So this is the group that you don't necessarily have to spend your money on, right? So it refers to produce with a lot lower levels of pesticides. This produce can be purchased usually in the normal area of the supermarket. It has less than 4 different types of pesticides, so it's still not great. But let's say you're on a budget and you really can't buy everything organic. So this is the list that you're going to slack on. Okay. So this is the list where you're going to go, okay, I'm going to get my avocados and my bananas or my eggplant, and it's not going to be organic. And you know that it's not going to be as bad as the other ones. Something that I wanted to say too, that we learned in school, that with all your fruits and veggies, except for bananas, avocados, and the citrus fruits, and a kiwi, obviously, and papaya, those are obvious, cantaloupes, but all the other ones, cucumber, zucchini, summer squash, you don't want to peel those. You want to scrub them and eat the skin. There is a huge amount of nutrients in the skins of those vegetables. Your potatoes. Do you remember when you were young, just like that was the best part of a baked potato, was the crusty outside that had been rubbed in like olive oil and salt? You want to eat the skins of any fruits and vegetables that you can. Do not peel them, as long as they're organic. If they're not organic, peel away. So there they are, the Clean 15. And that changes too every year. You can just go Google, what are the Clean 15 for 2020? And up will come a nice list for you. So cruciferous vegetables, and why do we eat them? So I'm sure you all have heard of these. Oh, see, I did it again. All right, just keep that vision of the cruciferous vegetables in front of you while I talk. I should know how to go back, but I don't. Let me see if I can. Oh, look at that. I just learned how to do that. They're among the most nutritious foods that you can add to your diet. Super, super antioxidants. They're loaded with an array of vitamins, minerals, but these veggies supply sulfur. They have a sulfur-containing compound called glucosinates, which give them a really strong, distinctive taste and smell. If you've ever smelled Brussels sprouts, my mom used to steam them, and it was disgusting. And cabbage. So the trick is knowing how to cook these things properly so they taste good and they're appealing. But we eat Brussels sprouts here all the time. We live on cauliflower. We live on broccoli in this house. They just have a very distinctive odor. But this compound that they have lends like a really unique health benefit to the vegetable, which they pass on to us. So they're super low in calories. I think a cup of cooked broccoli is only like 55 calories and supplies huge amounts of calcium, iron, potassium, and more vitamin C than anybody needs in one day. So I'll say this in another slide later, but a serving of broccoli has 2 times the vitamin C as an orange. We've been fed a lot of silliness from the orange industry. So cruciferous vegetables have really strong anti-cancer properties, and that's why we want you to eat them. I don't know if you've heard about free radicals, but when you are eating damaged oils or other trans fats, or let's say the normal phase 1 and phase 2 detox in your body, you're really good at phase 1, but phase 2, your elimination and everything else isn't good. In the process of your body taking toxins and making them water soluble so they can be excreted out through your urine and your feces, if you are having trouble with that process in your body, in that transition, your body turns the toxins, which are already bad, into much more dangerous free radicals, they burn through your tissue. They're what cause cancer. And so that's why we want to have antioxidants in our diet. Lots of them, because you eat vegetables like this and you don't have to worry about that. So there was a review in the Food and Science and Nutrition survey that found that the glucosinates that broccoli have promote cancer cell death, which is amazing. And they also work for other cancers, lung, prostate, breast cancer. And even the little shoots, so I don't know if anyone eats the little broccoli sprouts that you can get in the store, but if you can buy organic broccoli sprouts, that's probably one of the biggest bangs for your buck that you could get. They offer anywhere from 10 to 100 times the amount of glucosinates as a mature piece of broccoli. So much more anti-cancer properties in those broccoli sprouts than from even just the normal piece of broccoli. So they've discovered links between raw sprouts and lower cholesterol, improved insulin situations in the body, and decreased blood pressure as well. Leafy greens, dark leafy greens also count in this family. Collard greens, mustard greens, kale, bok choy, Swiss chard, watercress. So a cup of cooked kale contains the same nutritional makeup as broccoli with only 36 calories. And it supplies 10 times the amount of vitamin K that we need. So if you want to absorb, let's say, calcium properly, you really need to have vitamin K in your body. So that also helps. It helps with blood clotting. It helps to support strong bones and guard against osteoporosis. Vitamin K is also necessary by keeping excess calcium in your body from running rogue and calcifying parts of your body that you don't necessarily want. It helps escort the calcium into your bone. And then if you add some good quality olive oil to your cooked kale, so you cook your kale and then splash a little olive oil on top, it makes it taste better, but it also, because vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin, putting the olive oil helps you absorb the vitamin K up into your body. So anyway, leafy greens are a great choice when you're trying to get enough calcium for your bone health without eating dairy products. 1 cup of cooked mustard greens gives you 17% of your daily calcium need, while the same serving of collard greens is 27%. So very dense in calcium. And root vegetables also, some of them come under this cruciferous group: turnips, rutabaga, radishes. They're also, all of these vegetables are rich sources of fiber. They help you with your digestive health. They keep us feeling full much longer. They help us control our blood sugar. I think 1 cup of mashed rutabaga or turnips, you'll get 18% of your fiber for the day. So it's really good for all those reasons. Oops, it has us going in the other direction now. All right. Vitamin, okay. So what we've been told is not always accurate, right? So vitamin C. We've been told, right? Oranges, drink orange juice, eat oranges. Well, orange juice is filled with sugar, and it is not the best source of vitamin C. Also, if you're not buying organic orange juice, chances are your juice is also loaded with a lot of toxins. So as I said, with the grape juice, try just putting a little splash of OJ in your seltzer or your soda water instead of drinking a whole cup. You see that big glass they show up there? I have little teeny juice glasses that my grandmother had. And when I have a bunch of boys over here, I give them these little glasses and they look at me like I'm crazy. And they go through the whole half gallon anyway, but I'm trying to train them not to have so much sugar. So instead of oranges, maybe consider instead red peppers. So 3 times the vitamin C in a red pepper than you have in an orange, which is amazing. And broccoli, a serving, as I said before, has 2 times the vitamin C as an orange. Also, that is true with Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. Green peppers, spinach, cabbage, tomatoes. So if you're going to have juice, I know my mother-in-law is on here, she has tomato juice, a much better choice than orange juice, and also winter squash has a great source of vitamin C. Other misleading information, calcium. So for decades, Americans have been told by the dairy industry that milk is the best food for us, especially for like growing children. And milk's calcium content has been its major selling point. So you know what? It's really not a great source of calcium. It's actually a poor source of calcium. And it's also extremely inflammatory to our body. So the selling point was, oh, drink milk, it'll help your bones. And everyone has really just accepted this on good authority that calcium, is wonderful, milk is wonderful, dairy is wonderful. But despite its high profile, calcium is no more important than many other of our mineral nutrients. So I think dairy is nature's perfect food, but only if you're a baby cow. So we have no biological requirement for dairy. And we've been told over and over again that this is what we should have. My pediatrician shamed me for not having my kids drink milk. We were told that milk makes healthy bones and that we should drink it daily. So I'm here to tell you that this is really not true. Countries that have the lowest rates of dairy and calcium consumption, like those in Africa and Asia, have the lowest rates of osteoporosis. Research shows us that higher intakes of both calcium and dairy products may increase your risk of prostate cancer from 30 to 50% for men. Dairy consumption increases the body's level of insulin-like growth factor, that's called IGF-1. That is a cancer promoter. Calcium isn't as bone protective as we thought. So studies on calcium supplementation have shown no benefit in reducing fracture risk. In fact, vitamin D appears to be the much more important nutrient than calcium in preventing fractures. These are just a few of the findings about dairy. 75% of the world's population is genetically unable to properly digest milk and other dairy products. That is lactose intolerance. I often notice that when I've read all these different studies that the intolerance comes from a protein called casein. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's the main protein found in milk. It's in other food items as well because they use it as a binding agent, but casein proteins can actually induce inflammation, leading to eczema and ear infections and congestion. Casein has also been linked, if you read the book Forks Over Knives, or that's the movie, is Forks Over Knives. The book is called The China Study. Casein is directly 100% related to increasing people's cancer. So once you get over a certain percentage of milk or dairy in your diet, it's like putting fuel on the fire every time. Not half the time, not 20% of the time, 100% of the time, especially with breast cancer. You can find that in the book The China Study. And there's been a lot of media hype about osteoporosis and calcium supplementation, but let me tell you folks, there's no reason to be taking that. Physicians really are not helping women when they tell them to be taking lots of calcium for their osteoporosis. Millions of patients are swallowing a lot of this, and if they don't have the right calcium cofactors like K1 and K2 in their body, they are not going to be bringing that calcium up into their bones. And so what happens is you have excess calcium running rogue around your body, and that calcium will find soft tissue to go and calcify your pineal gland in your head, which we talked about with the sleep thing. It goes into your arteries, it goes into your body and calcifies it. It's horrible, and it's causing a lot of health problems for women. So if you really want to prevent osteoporosis, you have to get rid of all this all the things you've been told, and know that there's other trace minerals and nutrients that will help reverse osteoporosis. So if you've ever been to a construction site where they're pouring concrete, like on the floor or a sidewalk, and you see those metal rods or mesh that they pour the concrete on, well, if we make an analogy with calcium in your bones, so the analogy between the sidewalk and the bone, you can think of the concrete as the minerals of the bone and the reinforcing rods or mesh as the bone matrix. So if they poured all that concrete without the rods, the concrete would just crumble and fall apart. So when you have deterioration of the protein matrix in your body, the minerals cannot be held and the bone gradually loses its density over time. And that's what happens with osteoporosis. It's not from a calcium deficiency. So the trace minerals, I will send this information to anybody that wants it. There's some really great studies about calcium supplements, but the trace minerals that we want for our good, strong bones are silica, magnesium, which I already said, there's a huge deficiency in our country, especially as we age. It gets worse and worse. So over 65, 80% of the people have suboptimal magnesium, manganese, copper, selenium, iodine, and phosphorus. So those are the minerals that we want for that wonderful matrix to support our body. It's a balance of all of those minerals to help you not get osteoporosis. And I think I already mentioned that K1 and D3 are very important. So if you're eating calcium, but you're deficient in K1 and D3, you're not going to absorb all that wonderful calcium into your body. So much better sources of calcium: almonds, kale, spinach, collard greens. I had my son Georgie. He was so good. He would go into the pediatrician, and he was old enough that he went in by himself, or she'd always want to talk to him alone. And I know she was grilling him on his diet because she knew we were vegetarians at the time. I still am, and knew that my kids didn't have dairy. And so she would be like, Georgie, do you drink milk? And I had him trained to go, no, but I eat dark leafy greens. I was so proud of him. So soy, tofu, edamame, organic, original sources of soy, not processed soy. Salmon, wild only. But a fun fact is that Whole Foods has their own farmed fish situation going on, and their farm-raised fish is very safe. So if you want to buy farm-raised fish, know that Whole Foods, their process they do, and they've been investigated, they are a very safe source of farmed fish. Fun fact. And navy beans, another good source of calcium. Okay, so I know this is a lot for everybody. I tried to trim this down. I did trim it down, believe it or not, but I'm trying to get to the big things that will affect your health. So fat or fiction. So we've always been told, right? Fat is bad. Oh, I don't want to have eggs. I don't want the fat. I don't want to have any fat. I want low-fat yogurt, low-fat milk. Just look at our chicken. If you go into the supermarket, all the chicken doesn't have any skin on it anymore. It's actually better for you to have the chicken with the skin. It's better for you to have the lower priced pieces of meat that need to be marinated and during the day and that have more fat through them, because it's that plus the protein that helps you absorb it. It's the skin on the chicken and the meat that help you absorb it. And we're a whole society eating skinless, boneless chicken, high, 95% lean hamburger. It's actually better to get the hamburger that has more fat in it and the lower cut prices of meat. Anyway, so there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. So we don't even know, a lot of people, that eating good healthy fats can help us lose weight and even get healthier. So the myths are, right, fat makes us fat, contributes to heart disease, leads to we call it diabesity, sort of obesity and diabetes. We've been told that all saturated fats are bad, vegetable oils are good. And, we could go on, but I'm sure these sound familiar. So none of these beliefs about fat are true. The right fats can help you become lean. They can help you become healthy, more vibrant. The difference between saturated fat and unsaturated fat is simply that saturated fats tend to be solid at room temperature, a bad one being bacon grease, a good one being coconut oil, for instance, while unsaturated fats are liquid and from plant sources. So saturated fat would be the fatty pieces of meat and beef and lamb, some pork and chicken products. In dairy products, some examples would be cream, whole milk, butter, some cheeses, and things like that. So fat is one of our body's most basic building blocks. The average person is made up of between 15 and 30% of fat. And I'm not saying in a bad way. Everyone out there in the last 10 to 15 years has always recommended a low-fat diet. We all saw it on every package, everything. But what that turned out to be for people was more of a high sugar and high refined carb diet because of it. And eating this way, so over the last 15, 20 years, everyone's focused on low fat. They've been like going to these low fat chips, low fat crackers, low fat, staying away from fatty meats and eating a lot of processed foods. And it's led to a huge huge amount of insulin resistance, which is what comes right before diabetes. It's pre-diabetic. It's led to a huge amount. You see the obesity that's happened in our country. They think that 2/3 of our children in this country are technically obese. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes is through the roof. You know that when you go to a rest stop and now they have those Sharpie containers in every bathroom, something's wrong, guys. And those dialysis things in the mall, they're everywhere now. So what is going on with our country? And we're very, very sick from the way we've been eating. So sugar, not fat, is the real villain. And it's been said like years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the sugar industry wrote a big fat check and convinced some physicians that had power to come out and say, it is fat that is the villain. It's fat, not sugar. Sugar is the bad guy. Sugar is in everything. It is put into our ketchup, into our salad dressings. It is in the form of high fructose corn syrup, which is even much more dangerous. It is put into everything that people eat unless you check your ingredients. So sugar is the bad guy. The good fats are good. They increase our metabolism. They help us burn fat better. They optimize our cholesterol profile. They actually can reverse type 2 diabetes and reduce your risk for heart disease. So sugar makes you fat, not fat. I don't know how much fat we want to talk about, but saturated, monosaturated, polyunsaturated, it goes on and on and on. So some are bad and many are good. So saturated fat isn't your enemy. We were all told that, right? I think it was the American Journal of Nutrition found no correlation at all between saturated fat and heart disease. And what happens with fat is that the quality becomes very important here. So the fat that is in fast food bacon or cheeseburger is very, very different than the saturated fat that you'll find in organic coconut oil or coconut butter. Some fats are unhealthy. Those are trans fats and inflammatory vegetable oils. Soybean oil, corn oil, if you have any yellow oil in your house, Wesson oil, any of that, canola oil, throw it away. It is the #1 thing you can do. If you did nothing else, if you never bought one organic anything, if you just did one thing for your health to get better, buy high quality oils, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and coconut oil. Get rid of the soybean, the peanuts, the sesame, the rice oil, the cottonseed oil, the sunflower oil. They have increased in our diet 20-fold over the last couple of decades. They're in all our foods. They're in all the processed foods. They contribute to inflammation in a huge way, which has then contributed to chronic autoimmune diseases and diseases rising. The good ones, the omega-3s and even the omega-6s are okay. They just have to be in balance. 99% of Americans are deficient in omega-3 fats. Blows my mind. So wonderful ways to get them include eating wild or sustainably raised fish, so salmon, buying omega-3 rich eggs, taking an omega-3 supplement you can do. You've heard of DHA probably. But eating those types of fats, the omega-3 fats, can actually make you lean. So healthy cell walls are made from high quality fats. So healthy cell walls, when you have high quality fats coming into your body, are better able to metabolize the insulin, which keeps our blood sugar regulated. And without proper blood sugar control, our body will sock away all that excess sugar as fat. So if sugar can't get into your cells properly, it's going to get stored as fat. Also, omega-3s help us burn fat, help us reduce our hunger, and things like that. Let's see what the next slide is here. Oh, okay, we'll sit right there. Your brain is 60% fat. Of that percentage, the biggest portion comes from the omega-3 fat called DHA. I'm not even going to try and say this, but docosahexaenoic acid. That's what it is. Your brain needs DHA. So it can communicate between the cells. So think of people that have MS, right? When you can't communicate between all that, your brain needs that good quality fat. If you know people with MS, tell them to eat coconut oil. It's one of the best things they can do. High quality fats can boost your cognition, happiness, learning, your memory. Studies have linked a deficiency of omega-3 fatty acids to depression, to anxiety, and even to some psychotic disorders like bipolar and schizophrenia. So your body knows when you are not getting enough quality fat. So some of the symptoms that you might see are dry, itchy, like the flaking skin, if your nails are cracked or brittle, if you have really hard earwax or itchy ears. I don't know if anyone had those little tiny bumps on the back of your arms or your torso, and stiff joints is another symptom as well. All right, so omega-3 and omega-6 and omega-9 fatty acids are all important to us. Each one has a lot of health benefits. What is important is that the omega-3 and 6 are in the right balance in your diet. And with the Western diet, as we've already discussed, there's way more omega-6 being consumed than omega-3. And that is why people are so unhealthy. And that contributes to a lot of diseases. So let's look at omega-3. So essential means that you must get them from your diet, that they're not made in your body. That's what that word means. They help our brain. We've already talked about that in our metabolism. Some good sources are flaxseed, fish oil, walnuts, and chia seeds. Omega-6, they're also essential fats. That means they have to come from outside in our diet, and they're a very good source of energy to our body. But however, in our Western diet, we have way, way too many. This is soy, corn, safflower oil, sunflower oil, meat, poultry, fish, and eggs. So the three fats that are omega-3 that you've heard of, I'm sure, DHA, which is about 8% of your brain weight, very important for brain development. EPA, which is carbon fatty acid, it produces chemicals in our brain which help reduce inflammation. And it also, the EPA, reduces symptoms of depression. And then the third one is ALA, alpha linoleic acid. And this is a carbon fatty acid as well that can be converted into the EPA and the DHA. We need it for the body's energy. So all these three omega fats are so important to every part of the human cell membrane. This is how important omega-3s are. They improve our heart health. They increase good HDL cholesterol. They can reduce triglycerides. They can reduce your blood pressure. They can get rid of the formation of arterial plaque. They support our mental health, as we already said, right? The depression, the bipolar. It's good at reducing your weight and getting your weight, especially the fat, that the muffin top with women that comes around the middle. It helps get rid of that kind of fat. It decreases a fatty liver. So getting a lot of omega-3s in your diet can help reduce that liver fat. If you've ever heard of that, it's very common. It supports infant brain development, very, very important for babies. It helps us fight inflammation. It helps prevent dementia. People who eat more fish and high omega-3 have slower decline in their brain function in old age than people that didn't. It helps promote our bone health. People with higher omega-3s tend to have better bone and mineral density. And also it's been known to prevent asthma. Omega-3 intake has helped reduce symptoms of asthma, especially like earlier in life. But the Western diet doesn't really contain enough of these omega-3s. So it hasn't, a deficiency can contribute to other things for kids, obesity and diabetes. I was listening to this guy, Mark Hyman, the other day. He's a functional medicine coach. He's a doctor. And he has a wonderful podcast called The Doctor's Pharmacy with an F. And I love listening to him, but he had a wonderful nutritionist on, and they were talking about this whole topic the other day and COVID-19. But children as young as 3 are clinically obese, they have found, because they're eating just horrible diets. And I thought that was the saddest thing I ever heard. So it's really important at a young age to make sure these kids get that wonderful omega-3 fats, very much less of the damaging fats. And the balance is so important. So the recommended ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is 4:1 or less. And the normal Western diet is between, at the very best is 10:1, and has been seen to be the worst 50:1. 50%, 50 omega-6 to 1 omega-3. So this is sort of understandable when we know about the amount of processed soy and processed corn and all that is added to so many products. So reducing the amount of omega-6 fats that you ingest is a huge goal for all of us, really. So the omega-6 fatty acids that are good and have some benefits in them, you just don't want to be overdone in them, are GLA, if you've ever heard of those, gamma linoleic acid. It's found in certain oils like evening primrose oil and borage oil. When you consume it, a lot of it gets converted to another fatty acid called DGLA, and that can help reduce like symptoms of arthritis. Another study found that taking GLA in addition to breast cancer drugs, like when women were on breast cancer drugs and also taking GLA, the breast cancer drug was much more effective than if they just took it alone. Another omega-6 is called conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, and this is another form. I think there is, I don't have which study it was, it just says here, the study found that taking 3.2 grams of this CLA supplement per day reduced body fat mass in humans. So a lot of good stuff there. And as we already said, good sources of this are free-range grass-fed animal products and free-range organic eggs. Avocado, pumpkin seeds, all those wonderful things. So here's some of, I put together a little visual. Hopefully some of this looks like what you guys are eating: walnuts, healthy eggs, macadamia nuts, salmon, extra virgin olive oil, that's coconut oil. On the bottom right is chia seeds, pecans, avocados. All good for you. If you want to go on the internet, I'll put it in the thing that I send to you all, but there's a group called the Environmental Working Group's Meat Eater's Guide. And it's a really great guide to eating good quality meat and animal products that are not only good for us, but good for the planet. So you can, I'll put that in the email that I send to whoever wants to get that, and you can go on and look at that yourself. Trans fats. These are just bad, bad people. Bad, 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 bad. So Pillsbury dough and the pie dough that you roll out, or up in the left there, the Pillsbury, any kind of refrigerated or freezer dough, frozen pies, the kind of cakes that you get at Stop and Shop or Hannaford, frozen pizzas. So the FDA issued a ban on all trans fats, so if the FDA did that, because I don't really put a lot of faith in the FDA, to be honest with you, because I think they let a lot of things out there that we shouldn't be having, but they came out and said how horrible they were for us. And they're trying to eliminate them completely by 2023. But there was a little loophole in there when they put that ban on. So if it was less than a certain percentage, they didn't have to say trans fat, and it could say hydrogenated fat. So you should know that hydrogenated fat and trans fat is the same thing. Margarine, so trans fat was invented to use in margarine and shortening originally. And then the joke is, you know why they call it shortening? Because it shortens your life. Ha ha ha, just a little joke. So it was supposed to be a better butter for us, but it's much worse. It's been hydrogenated, its cellular structure has been changed, it's a carcinogenic, it's so bad. If you put a stick of butter on the counter and a stick of margarine, the flies won't even land on the margarine. It's disgusting. It's too toxic for them. Trans fats, they slow your metabolism, they cause you to gain weight, they lower your good cholesterol, they raise your bad cholesterol, they can lead to diabetes, which is diabetes and obesity put together, heart attacks, strokes, dementia, cancer, much inflammation, much free radicals. So the first step in getting these out of our food supply was them to do that labeling law, but that loophole was there, and so we still have it in our food, folks. So you have to really read. Like on a Cool Whip container, the label says 0 trans fat, but if you really look close, you'll see it says water and partially hydrogenated fat and high fructose corn syrup. Well, partially hydrogenated fat is trans fat. So that's how they get away with it. So if you ever see that, do not buy it. Do not buy anything with either one of those things in there. Do not eat it. It is very bad for you. And most people don't know this. Too bad the grocery stores are so hard to get into these days. I would take a group with me. That's what I'm going to do, is find when we can do that, is go in as a group and shop around and teach people. So we know that the FDA has banned them as unsafe, and they're saying that they've got to be pretty bad. The purpose of trans fats was to prolong like the shelf life of a food, so it would never go rancid. So do you really want to make a pie crust out of something that's been sitting in your cupboard for 30 years? Anyway, something to think about. It's hidden in almost all the convenience foods and fried foods, microwave popcorn, cookies, cakes, cupcakes, donuts, pizza, baked goods, frozen foods. It doesn't mean you can't get all these foods, but you just need to get them in a healthy form. You can get potato chips at the health food store that have healthy oil that they were made with. You can get other items that do not include this, but also a lot of supposedly healthy salad dressings and other things, if you read the label, have dangerous oils in them. So you really have to become an expert at reading labels. If you do nothing else, I tell you, this one simple thing, right, is get this out of your diet and get high quality oils. The other thing is omega-6 oils, like corn oil and soy oil. When they're heated at high temperatures, they become, or they get exposed to the air, they become oxidized, and then they create free radicals in your body. And we've already talked about the free radicals. They burn through your tissue, they damage our cells, they damage proteins, they damage DNA, they cause cancer. So just knowing that some of these processed things are in some of our diets, the best thing we can do other than eliminating them as best we can is to up our take of antioxidants. Absolutely. Keeps the free radicals in check. So antioxidants from outside the body, vitamin C. And vitamin C is water soluble, so you can take it all day long. I take like 4,000 a day. I take 1,000 in the morning, some at lunch, some in the afternoon, and some at bedtime. Vitamin E, vitamin A, selenium, these are all antioxidants that come from outside the body. The body's most powerful, wonderful antioxidant is glutathione. Our levels naturally decrease as we age of glutathione. Also stress and toxin exposure will decrease your glutathione. Glutathione also is a binder for toxins. So if we have mercury or other toxins or heavy metals in our body, mostly heavy metals, glutathione binds to that heavy metal, and then it escorts it out the body. But then there goes our glutathione. Otherwise, a lot of our glutathione can get recycled, but you need to have the right cofactors in order to produce glutathione. And a lot of people that are on medications, prescription medications and other things, I know that statins and some other things literally are poison to glutathione. So we want to supplement with glutathione then. And there's some wonderful supplements out there, which if you would like to know, you can put that in the chat box as well. That'll be a whole nother talk, supplements. Another antioxidant that comes from inside our body is alpha lipoic acid. This also comes in supplement form if we need to have it. So as I said before, sugar, not fat, is the real culprit. Sugar, not fat, makes us fat. So the average American eats 152 pounds of sugar and 146 pounds of flour that convert to sugar in your body each year. That's nearly a pound of sugar and flour combined every single day. Connecticut College did a study with sugar and crack cocaine and found that sugar was more addictive with the rats than crack cocaine. It is very, very addictive. Once you're in that hook of having sugar, it's very hard to back yourself out. There is sugar in almost everything that we eat these days. It's in all the processed foods. They put it in ketchup and everything to make it sweeter, and spaghetti sauce. When you have more sugar like this, your cells just become numb to when insulin is calling it into the cell. And literally your body pumps out more and more insulin to pull the blood sugar back down, but you can't burn all the sugar you eat. So, inevitably your body will store that sugar as fat. And then we have insulin resistance, which is just really metabolic havoc. And insulin resistance is the precursor to diabetes. There's 257 names for sugar. They all create the same damage. Sugar is sugar. And when we've talked before, people tend to be more focused on low fat. They tend to eat more starchy foods, which turn into sugar in your body. Studies show 75% of people who end up in the emergency room with a heart attack have normal overall cholesterol levels, but what they do have is prediabetes, insulin resistance, or type 2 diabetes. And the last slide for tonight, and I wasn't going to put this in because we've really talked about so much, but when I work with people and we're trying to do we start off right off the bat with trying to get some of their symptoms under control. I ask them to go off gluten and dairy initially just to see how they feel. Gluten, it just really, I don't know anyone that has gotten off gluten that doesn't feel better for it. 20 years ago, we didn't even hear about gluten, right? We didn't know how to spell it. Now gluten-free diets are, a big rage. Everyone's hopping on the gluten-free. The gluten-free wagon. I mean, people that are really sensitive, like celiac people, have to be super careful about gluten. But gluten, with everyone, whether you have celiac or not, it negatively impacts the lining of our gut. And more times than not, over the years, will create something called leaky gut, which is also known as intestinal permeability. And so you have one cell thick is the difference between your gut and your body cavity, if you will. So you have this semi-permeable membrane allowing nutrients to pass through that we want to have pass through. But a leaky gut is when that gets damaged, and now things that shouldn't be getting through that membrane are getting through. And your body's not used to having these particles in their body, in that part of your body. So it sets off alarm, right? Because it's not supposed to be there. It's not a bad substance. It could be the spinach or the eggs you eat every day. But because your gut has become leaky, or the integrity of your gut isn't there anymore, your body sends off this inflammatory alarm. So now every time you eat spinach now, your body has an inflammatory response. Nothing wrong with spinach. It just thinks that there's danger because that's the thing that leaked through your gut. I don't know if that makes sense, but I can explain it to someone in person if we need to. So the lining of the gut is supposed to be nice and strong and tight. It keeps the food and the waste and the microbes inside. It lets the good things pass through. And gluten causes the release of a protein called zonulin, and it's highly inflammatory, and it opens up those junctions in our gut lining and causes those gaps, allowing those particles to leak into our bloodstream. And that's why we get that immune response. And that's how we get autoimmune. After a while, that's how we get autoimmune diseases. And it's not that someone's myelin sheath is weak and that's why they get MS, or someone else's whatever is weak and that's why they get that. It's like it just chooses a victim after a while. So when your body is in this constant immune response, you'll get systemic inflammation and eventually an autoimmune disease. The good news is that can be reversed. It's very exciting. So gluten-containing grains like wheat, rye, barley, really aren't serving us. They're hurting our health. And I don't know anyone that hasn't felt better after getting off of them. And then the cookies, crackers, breads, pastas, all made with gluten. You know, they make some really good ones with chickpeas now and some alternatives if you really like having pasta once in a while. But it allows for more veggies in your life and more other healthy things that you should be really having. Even if you get like a blood test and your doctor tells you that you test for gluten antibodies and that you have normal antibodies, people can still have a severe reaction. It's known to affect your mood, your energy level, your skin, a lot of things. Anyway, let me see where we are. And that's pretty much it, guys. I know that's been a lot. So to sum up what we've discussed, and I think there's a few things in here I may not have touched on, but we want to really try to focus on whole foods, just the way the earth made them. Literally try to eliminate processed foods out of your life. I've been off processed foods for a month now, completely. It's hard in the very beginning because I really like corn chips. Yeah, I do. I like them with my guacamole, but you can do it and you feel fantastic. If you cannot pronounce it, do not ingest it. High quality oils are worth every penny. Do not cook with oils at high temps except for coconut oil. They become rancid. Avoid processed foods whenever possible. Limit your sugar intake. Eat a rainbow, wide variety of vegetables and fruits. Some people get in a rut, like only cauliflower, only broccoli. Really, your body gets used to that and you really need the variety. Try new things. There's bok choy. There's so many wonderful things out there. And I will send you those lists that we talked about tonight. Swiss chard and asparagus and all kinds of good stuff. Cruciferous vegetables, eat them often, many, every day. So good for us. Stick to grass-fed animal sources, wild-caught fish, unless you're shopping at Whole Foods, and avoid farm-raised fish if you're not at Whole Foods. You want to up your intake of antioxidants that we talked about and supplement if necessary. Try and stick to that clean 15 and avoid the dirty dozen at all costs. If they don't have organic spinach, don't buy it. If they don't have organic strawberries, don't buy them. Don't scrub. Scrub, don't peel, is what I meant to say. We don't want to take off that wonderful skin. Consider eliminating gluten, especially if you have an autoimmune disorder. Stay well hydrated with clean filtered water. Everyone should really have some kind of filtration system with their water. This is what I did not talk about, but a huge source of toxins are Teflon cookware. So stick to cast iron, stainless steel, or ceramic. And I also didn't touch on this too much, but limit your alcohol intake. A little bit's okay. It shouldn't be daily. It shouldn't be excessive. It really wreaks havoc on our bodies.